apologize again for my delay. But again, my name is Mike. I'm from California College of the Arts. We are a fully accredited private nonprofit school located in San Francisco, California. The first thing I'm going to do is show you just a short video that'll give you a little bit of an idea of where we're located, the campus, and then we'll jump in from there. A little intro video. And we are a pretty small college. We have under 20 majors, all falling under the areas of art, design, architecture, and writing. For the most part, these are four-year Bachelor of Fine Art programs. The exceptions to this are architecture, which is a five-year Bachelor of Architecture program, and writing and literature, which is a four-year Bachelor of Arts program. Our newest majors are game arts and design and comics. We'll be graduating our first classes in those programs coming up soon. And then our newest program is the one you see there in the middle, the interdisciplinary major. There are three different tracks one can follow with the interdisciplinary program. One is essentially utilizing or focusing on those sort of fine art specific programs. So print media, sculpture, textile, ceramics. If you're interested in one of those areas, that's the major you would pursue. Another way to look at this interdisciplinary program is to, again, focus on those fine art programs, but then you are pulling in sort of the latest technologies with the craft and creative technologies concentration. So for example, if you were doing something like textiles, we have sort of I call it a loom printer. There's definitely a better word for the type of equipment that is, but if you create some sort of design, instead of sitting there and actually weaving or looming by hand, this printer, this piece of equipment would actually create that piece for you. So it's being able to take sort of those latest cutting edge technologies and wrap it into your practice. And then the third way to look at this interdisciplinary BFA is what we used to call the individualized major. And that was sort of creating an a la carte program. So for example, if you were interested in illustration, game art, and comics, you sort of build your own program a la carte. So a little bit flexible within that program. Otherwise, if you're interested in any of the other programs, you would just follow along that track. What makes us different from some other schools is the fact that we have STEM designated degrees. And you can see on this list the BFA programs that fall under that category, and then the Bachelor of Architecture program. The benefit of a STEM designated degree is it gives an international student an opportunity to apply for a 2-year extension of their OPT. Essentially what that means, 1 year, or a student after graduating from college in the United States has 1 year to do internships, to find a job. The benefit of that STEM designated program is the application or applying for that 2-year extension, in which case you would then have 3 years to look for internship or job opportunities. So if you're interested in one of these programs, we could be a good option for you because it gives you that additional time in the States to look for those types of work. Regardless of what major you want to pursue at CCA, all of our students go through a first-year core foundation program. These include studio classes in drawing, 2D, 3D, and 4D. There's art history and writing classes as well. And then you have open electives where you're able to play around either with studio course in the major you're interested in, or maybe to explore something you haven't had the opportunity to experience before. It's in the second year really that you're locked into your program and you start on the specific curricular path for that major. This can also be really great because if you know you want to go to art school, but you're not 100% sure which program you want to pursue, you sort of have a year to play around and figure that out. A great thing about an art college in the US, and a place like CCA specifically, is you are making from day one. So in traditional colleges and universities, it's not uncommon to have 2 years of general education courses before you jump into your major, but at an art school like CCA, from day one, you're making in the studio. And our students are not just drawing or painting or creating class assignments that don't have purpose. They're doing a variety of different things. So just a couple examples of this. You have industrial design and interaction design students working on these projects. The one on the left, the Vibe, is actually a projector that's based in a lamp. So it's something that you can have in your home, in your living room, in your sitting area, and again, functions as a lighting source, but can also be used as a projector to watch videos or movies. And then they also experimented with or played around with something called a smart screen. So this would be essentially a mirror that could serve a dual purpose when it's at rest. It could maybe have the weather or news brief or whatnot scrolling on. So sort of like Amazon Echo or Alexa, whatever it's called, this same kind of idea but in mirror form. And then we also had students working on a hearing aid project. So those of us in the population who are unfortunate to have hearing loss or struggle with hearing issues and need to wear a hearing aid can all generally tell when somebody is using that type of equipment. So the idea behind this project was essentially to give those users, hearing aid users, the opportunity to make it their own. So to make it a little bit more of an accessory as opposed to just a quote-unquote hearing aid. So to allow them to have that flexibility and express their individuality. Again, we are a pretty small institution. We have under 1,400 students, but we're really solid across the board. We are ranked the #1 art school in the nation for both salary potential and return on investment by a company called PayScale. We have small class sizes, as you would imagine, so usually no more than a dozen students in a studio class, and that student to faculty ratio is 7 students to an instructor. And we'll talk more about faculty in a bit, but all of our teachers are practicing professionals working in their fields. So when you have a super small class size, it's really easy to connect with those professionals and work with them. We recently finished a campus expansion. So CCA used to be in both Oakland, California and San Francisco, California. But now we are just located here in the design district of San Francisco. So the buildings you see sort of in the front of this image is the new campus that just opened in the past year. This space houses a bunch of new galleries, studio spaces, and learning spaces. So essentially we now occupy one city block in San Francisco. As I mentioned, these gallery spaces and maker spaces are available in both the new campus and the traditional campus. These are places you have access to pretty much at all times. Actually, as a student, as long as there is not a class going on in a studio space or an area that you are looking to gain access to, all you need to do is tag in to campus with your ID and you have 24-hour studio access. So you can always have the opportunity to be working on your projects or utilizing the equipment. We do require housing for the first 2 years. This is beneficial, especially for our international students. You don't have to worry about finding an apartment in San Francisco. There are also options for upperclassmen housing, 3 blocks or so away from campus. So if you wanted to stay in campus housing your entire time at CCA, that's also an option for you. We have the first year housing in that building is called Founders Hall. And there is a cafe on the bottom floor of the housing, which offers a variety of food options. They can accommodate really any dietary restrictions or diet preferences for you. I'm gonna just go back to this one video. So this Founders Hall is on the left, the white building with the red stripes essentially. If you notice the building next to it, that's the Adobe logo. So Adobe actually has offices right next to our dorm. Both of these buildings are right across the street from that main campus. So when we talk about location and access to companies, this is really a great example of that because Adobe is literally right there across the street or sharing that same street as our housing. We do have over a dozen different clubs on campus, including CCA India, a Korean Student Association, and the Chinese Student Scholars Association. But there's also a basketball club, a climbing club, an intramural sports club. We want our students to have access to a variety of different activities. We don't want you to just be in the studio or in the classroom at all times. So San Francisco offers a lot of different activities, as you can imagine, and these are just some of the ones that you have access to as a CCA student. We also have a really great department specifically for our international students, and this is the International Student Services team, or the ISS department. They are there essentially to be your partner the entire time that you're a student. So if you apply to CCA and you're admitted and you decide to come, they help you navigate the visa process. While you're a student, they help you make sure that you maintain your immigration status. They provide various support systems throughout the year on various international student activities. So they're there, again, really set up to help you succeed, just like everybody else at the college. Has anyone been to San Francisco? Okay. Well, I hope you all have the opportunity to visit. It's a great city. You might find it laughably small coming from a place like Delhi. We would say we're 7 square miles, sort of right there in the Bay Area Peninsula. We have about 750,000 people. So again, definitely a smaller city, but we have amazing access to so many different things. We are one of the most diverse cities in the country. You have access to museums, wide variety of different types of cuisines. We have pretty good public transportation for a major city in the US, which includes BART and Muni, which would be our train and our bus system. If you're into sports, we have both basketball and baseball stadiums that are actually very close within walking distance to campus. We're again right there on the coast, so it can be very chilly to go and spend the day at the beach, but if you enjoy things like surfing or kayaking, you have access to the water. It is cold, so I myself am a novice surfer, but I cannot enter the ocean without a wetsuit because I would freeze. But that's besides the point. There's obviously different kinds of shopping options, again, museums, SF MoMA, various galleries and whatnot. So there's always something going on, always something to do in the city. One of, though, the biggest benefits is, again, those connections. So we just talked about Adobe being essentially right there across the street, but our location in Silicon Valley, in the innovation corridor, brings so many different people, artists, designers, companies to our area. And this gives our students amazing opportunities to connect with and even work with some of those places. So for example, we've had architecture and various design students work with an architecture firm called Autodesk. And they play around with things like robotic crafting and biomaterials in engineering. This has been an ongoing sort of connection that students have been utilizing over the past several years. And another is the partnership with Bentech Lab at Moss Landing on this Buoyant Ecologies Float Lab. And the idea behind this project was essentially to create a floating laboratory that, if it was able to, or if it is able to take off, would be able to have dual purpose. So in this slide, the image on the right, essentially the part of the island or the lab above water would be able to collect rainwater, provide habitat for invertebrates, and on a larger scale, if a project like this were able to take off, could host green spaces, parks, or maybe even housing, living for people. And then the structures underneath are set up to form habitats for vertebrates, fish, plankton, things of that nature. So they actually did develop a prototype, which you can see on the left-hand side, and that is currently floating in the San Francisco Bay as they continue their studying. We also have a group or class on campus called TBD at CCA. The idea behind this is to give nonprofits in San Francisco access to creative resources, to design resources. So as you can imagine, much like probably everywhere else in the world, nonprofits don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of expendable income. It's hard for them sometimes to tap into resources to have the same kind of access to artists or designers or architects. So the purpose behind TBD is to essentially mitigate that and allow them these creative types of resources. So what you're seeing here is essentially a project that they played around with. That moving image is covering a construction wall. So this is a picture of one of the entrances of our, what would be our subway. It's called BART, so you can see that BART train, the BA on the right-hand side. This is blocking construction on one of the escalators. So the idea here was, instead of just having these like wooden walls, these plain boring wooden walls, it was sort of activating the space. So just to kind of beautify the BART station while they were doing construction, while they were doing work. There are, again, a variety of galleries on campus, and this is sort of capstoned by our Wattis Institute. This is sort of a dual function space, so not only one of the larger galleries on campus, but also sort of a research center. So this is where visiting artists would come in, host galleries, openings, their work, and give students opportunities to connect with others and further study. So as I mentioned, our connection to various industries helps because of that location and essentially comes right to our doorstep. And this happens through a variety of different ways. We have a very active career development department on campus, which is available to you the entire time that you're a student, and then also throughout your life as an alumni. Some majors, particularly in architecture and design-related fields, require an internship as part of the curriculum, and therefore you have like a specific faculty internship advisor, but all students are encouraged to pursue internship opportunities, and that is where also that career development department comes in to help navigate that process. And as you can imagine, as we've sort of been talking about, I've been touching upon, San Francisco is great for working artists. Because of all these reasons and more. So our access to these museums, galleries, artist spaces, we are, again, an incredibly diverse community. It's not weird to be an artist in San Francisco. Everybody fits in San Francisco. It doesn't matter who you are, who you love, what you think, what you dress like, everyone in San Francisco fits, which is a great place to be learning. So as I mentioned earlier, all our faculty are practicing professionals in their chosen fields, so you have really great opportunities to connect closely with them. So for example, Giselle is the new chair of our filmmaking program. She's actually a multimedia artist as well. So she's done sculpture and installation work. The piece on the right here was actually inspired by her work with Palestinian children last year. But again, her main focus is filmmaking, so typically documentaries. She's done work with John Legend and Oprah, as you can see here, posing with those creators. Eric is part of our communication design department and also runs that TBD course that we were just talking about. He has worked in a variety of different publications, but he also does sort of installation work, site art, I guess you can consider it. So on the right, that's a park down in San Jose. It's about 45 minutes south of us. On the left was work he did for Harvey Milk Plaza in the Castro neighborhood of San Francisco. Our goal for you as a CCA student is essentially to help you become a practice-ready professional when you graduate. So you don't, even though some students go on to pursue graduate degrees, we want you to be able to hit the ground running when you leave. So we do that by giving you access to these professional faculty, to industry standard equipment and resources. When you graduate, you have a professional level portfolio that is applicable to your area of study. That network, through all the connections you make on campus, through that career services department, is also really, really important. And regardless of what major you pursue at CCA, you're learning all different aspects of your program. So you're flexible within your chosen field as well. As I mentioned before, some of our students do go on to pursue graduate degrees, but about 3/4 of our students are working within a year of graduating, and 3/4 of that population are indicating to us that they're working in fields that are related to their career interests. These are just some of the companies that our students or our alumni have gone on to work with. So very much just the tip of the iceberg, not a comprehensive list. But obviously you can see some big names up there: Mattel, Pixar, Disney, Google, Dropbox, Adobe. And these are some of the sort of job titles, positions that those alumni have gone on to have. So if you notice here, a majority of these job titles are not majors or programs of study at CCA. And that's because, as I mentioned, you're learning all these different tools, all these different parts of your chosen path, which gives you a great amount of flexibility. So an illustrator, for example, can do something like product design, or can do something like character design, be a storyboard artist, be a creative director or a colorist. They're not just pigeonholed into, say, illustrating children's books or doing concept art. There's a variety of different things they can get involved in. So just to take a look at some of our alumni, Jay is an alum from the animation program. He is now a creative director at Pixar. He's been there for about 10 years or more. So he's worked on some really great films there at Pixar. Grace is a much more recent graduate. She left CCA or graduated from CCA in 2023. She currently works at Mattel. Her most recent project is on a line of Hot Wheels. I believe that is scheduled to come out next year. And then Casper is an architecture alumni. He is originally from Europe, I believe was born in Norway. So he's grown up in Europe in both the States. He has started his own architecture firm with headquarters in both San Francisco and in Oslo. And it sort of marries the Scandinavian design with some West Coast California types of principles. In regards to applying to CCA, if you're interested in us and you want to join our community, we do have a pretty standard application process. So we are on the Common App. That's the application you would fill out for us, and that includes a personal essay. We also need your official transcript, so that's something you would talk to your counselor about sending to us. A letter of recommendation, and this would ideally come from your counselor or your art teacher, but it could come from any teacher, a coach, a supervisor at a job, just as long as it's not a family member or a friend. So it should be artistic or work reference or something of that nature. A proof of English proficiency, which I'll talk about in 1 second, and then a portfolio, which I'll talk about in 2 seconds. Students who have studied overseas, and then in particular international student applicants, are required to submit a proof of English proficiency requirement. Typically, those are things like TOEFL or IELTS. We recently started accepting Duolingo as well, and you can see those required scores or minimum scores there on the screen. In some instances, we are able to waive this requirement based on the school you are attending, the English courses, if your curriculum is in English, and then the grades that you're receiving. So I think the important thing sort of to take away from this is to submit your transcripts as soon as possible once you've submitted your application, so that it can be reviewed and we can determine if you are eligible for this proof of English proficiency waiver. If you are applying to another school that won't waive things, or you just feel better, a lot of students have been utilizing Duolingo because they think it's a little bit more of an accessible test. You can just take Duolingo and submit the scores to us, and that would satisfy the requirement. But if you're looking for that waiver, you do want to submit your transcripts as soon as possible so they can be reviewed.
SAT is not required.
An SAT is not required. Students are welcome to submit SAT scores if they so choose. It will give us a more complete picture of the academic achievements, but we've not ever admitted or denied students based on SAT scores alone. So if you have them, because another school required them, feel free to send them if you're comfortable with the results, but don't take the SAT for us. So now, probably the most stressful part of the art school application is the portfolio. We like to make it extra stressful for you because we do not have any specific portfolio requirements. We are actually very laid back, very general with what we want to see in your portfolio. The best advice I have for you is those 3 lines you see on the left. Show what's important, what interests you, and how you see the world. In general, we are looking for 10 to 15 pieces of your strongest, most recent artworks. So we don't want to see things that you made when you were in year one or a freshman, or we don't want to see even, this is what I did 4 years ago and now this is what I do now. We don't want to see that progression. You want to stick with your strongest, most recent artworks. It's certainly okay if you're interested in, say, architecture. If your portfolio focuses on, say, 3D modeling, maybe you've played around with AutoCAD, a couple floor plans, and you built a house out of popsicle sticks for your parents' birthday. That could be your portfolio, and that's great. If you're interested in architecture and you only have painting and drawing because that's what you've been doing in school, that's also okay. So your portfolio does not need to contain a specific type of artwork for the major you want to pursue, but it's fine if it does. Think of the portfolio as a way for you to show us more about who you are. So your own personal voice. CCA does really like to see conceptual types of work. So if you're playing around with experimentation, utilizing different types of media, that is certainly fine to include in a portfolio. Do not feel too overwhelmed about this. You're probably never going to be comfortable with your current portfolio, right? You're always gonna have that little voice in the back of your head that might be saying, this isn't right, this isn't done yet, I need to keep working on this. It doesn't matter if you're 15 years old or 55 years old. You just get to a point as you get older that you're more comfortable with that stopping point, or you have a client who's telling you, yes, this is what I want. But that portfolio review, both in person, both in a process like applying for art school, is just part of that process. You just need to show us a little bit again about who you are. Put your best foot forward. Don't show us things you can't do, just focus on things that you feel are indicative of your abilities. We do have a portfolio tip book. So I have a handful of copies that I put over there on the table, but that QR code will bring you to cca.edu/portfolio. It's the same information on the website. So you can scan that QR code. I also have a page over there that has the QR code, so we can scan that later too. But this will dive in a little bit deeper into what I was just talking about, give you a few more examples. Don't feel like if you're flipping through this book or visiting that website, if your artwork doesn't look like what you see in there, that you shouldn't apply or that you're not good enough to be in art school or at CCA. That's not the case. It's always very difficult to determine what type of artwork to put in this type of brochure, because we want to inspire you. We want to show you things that have been successful. We don't want you to compare yourself to this type of artwork. But again, this resource is really great, and the information is there for you in the book or on the website. We do offer a pre-college program, and this is for students who are 16, 17, or 18 years old, typically have completed 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, or the equivalent. This is 4 weeks during the summer where you would physically come to San Francisco, live in the dorms, and take classes taught by faculty. So this is a really great way to sort of taste test what art school is like, what CCA is like, what living in California is like. It gives you the chance to continue to build a portfolio. And I think that those are all really great reasons to do a pre-college program. And sort of the cherry on top of that is when you complete the 4 weeks, you can request a transcript and get elective credit towards your major even if you don't come to CCA. So if you decide to go to another art school or a traditional university or college, that essentially is a summer credit program that you can utilize. We are on what is called a rolling admission. So this means you could apply at any point during the year you're preparing to go to college or university. We do have a merit scholarship consideration deadline of February 1st. All you need to do to be considered for merit scholarship is to apply by February 1st. There's not a box you have to check on the application. You don't have to ask us for one. You just need all your application materials in by that date. International students generally receive anywhere between $20,000 and $25,000 in merit scholarship. While international students are not eligible for federal financial aid in the US, in addition to the merit scholarships, there are campus jobs that international students can apply for. So that's also a nice way to supplement your income. We do on our website also have external links to scholarship resources for international students. So it's not just necessarily a merit scholarship from CCA, but you can look for outside scholarships as well. And that is the quick version of the presentation. So if you have any questions after today, the international admissions team is reachable at that email address, internationaladmissions@cca.edu. My colleague Annie is also on WeChat, which is more for China and not necessarily, I don't think anyone here probably has WeChat. But Annie is sort of running the international team right now at CCA, so she would be sort of your main point of contact. And I've been joking around with students all week. I don't know how cool it is to like follow your colleges on Instagram, but if you want to